Hey everyone, Ryan Guthrie here with ATS, and I'd like to spend a few minutes today talking to you about Universal Service Fund and why I think you should be taking a look at possibly doing a traffic study. If you handle billing, finance, or regulatory reporting for a telecom or VoIP provider, there's a good chance you're sending more money to the Universal Service Fund than you actually owe. I'm talking about money that comes straight out of your margin quarter after quarter, not because you did anything wrong, but because you trusted the FCC's safe harbor rate and never checked it against your own traffic. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how a USF traffic study works and why it can significantly change your USF bill and how to decide if it's worth it for your business or not. If you're responsible for a Form 499 for USF accruals or for explaining that line on the P&L every quarter, stay with me. This is for you. By the end of this video, you will understand 4 things very clearly: what the USF is actually collected for and how the contribution factor hits your revenue, why the safe harbor percentage exists, and how they quietly inflate your payments even when your customers are mostly local, what a USF traffic study really is in practical terms, not legal language, and the checklist you can use with your own team to see if a traffic study makes sense for you. No buzzwords, no pitch, just rules and data and the decisions you control. So let's start simple. Every quarter, your company pays into the Universal Service Fund based on a percentage of your telecom revenue. The amount you contribute is based on 2 main things: the contribution factor, which is set by the FCC, and your percentage of interstate or international use, better known as your PIU. You cannot control the contribution factor, but what you can control is the PIU that you file with. Here's the setup. You send invoices to customers for voice and related services. Some usage is local, some is interstate, some is international. And the rules only require that you pay USF on the interstate and international portion of it. But here's the tension. If you do not have a defensible way to measure that interstate or international portion, you fall back on generic assumptions, which is safe harbor. It treats a fixed percentage of your traffic as interstate or international, which USAC has set at 64.9%. If your real usage is lower than that, you're overpaying every quarter. Simple as that. Once you know that your obligation depends on how much traffic is truly interstate, it becomes obvious why a traffic study exists. It's the tools that replaces the guesswork with actual measurement. Now let's talk about Safe Harbor itself. Safe Harbor was created to make life easier for providers that either didn't want to or didn't have the tools or the abilities to analyze call detail records. For certain services, it lets you treat a fixed percentage of your revenue as interstate. For nearly all providers, the Safe Harbor assumption is high. It assumes a large share of your traffic crosses state lines, but in reality, most providers are serving more local or regional markets, and the real interstate share is much lower. Here's what that looks like in practice. Imagine you bill $1 million in qualifying voice services in a year. Under Safe Harbor, you treat 64.9% of that as interstate, which is about $660,000. But under a traffic study that uses your own call detail records, you might find that only about a third is actually interstate or international, which is about $330,000. And then you apply the contribution factor to those bases. So you can picture 2 stacks of money side by side. One stack built from Safe Harbor, the other built from your actual usage. When you multiply the contribution factor to both, the difference between those 2 stacks is pure overpayment. You're not getting more compliance for that extra money. You're not buying extra protection. You're just paying based on a generic model developed in 2006 instead of your own actual call detail records. This is why so many finance and regulatory teams start looking at traffic studies. At some point, the gap just becomes too big to ignore. You might be thinking, well, we've always used Safe Harbor and we've never had a problem, or our billing system is messy and pulling that traffic data sounds painful. But here's the mindset shift. You're not trying to game the system. You're trying to align your payments with reality. The rules allow and encourage that when you follow a consistent, documented method. So before we go deeper, do a quick check. Think about your customer base. Are most of your customers clustered in a few states or spread evenly across the country? Think about your products. Do you sell a lot of local trunks, local numbers, regional bundles? If your business feels more local or regional, Safe Harbor is very likely overstating your interstate share. And that's exactly where a traffic study can create value. Now let's strip the mystery away from the term traffic study. In plain language, the USF Traffic Study is a structured analysis of your call detail records that calculates your actual PIU using the rules in the 499 instructions. Here's what that looks like step by step. You gather call detail records for a defined period, typically a quarter, sometimes a year. Those records can come from your switches in your network or your billing platforms, and they include some of the basic pieces of a phone call record, such as the origin, the destination, the date, duration, things like that. Next step is each call gets classified by jurisdiction, whether it's interstate, intrastate, international. This uses a consistent logic based on the location of the calling and called parties and the governing rules for how to handle other types of calls. Next, we aggregate those results and compute the percentage of total traffic that is interstate or international, which gives you your actual PIU for that window of time. We document everything, the inputs, the methods, the summaries, and we prepare a report that explains how we calculated that PIU. None of the steps are magic. They're careful data work and clear documentation. The payoff is a percentage you can point to and defend. It is grounded in your actual traffic instead of a generic assumption. That percentage then replaces safe harbor when you calculate your USF. Now on to the practical question. Is a traffic study worth the effort for your company? I'll tell you 9.9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Let's look at a few key things to consider. If your customer base is concentrated in a small number of states, most of your users are in one region, they spend most of their time within that region, calling local businesses or friends and family, your real interstate share is often far below safe harbor. This is common with local business providers, regional carriers, and niche VoIP players. Number two, if you're close to the de minimis threshold, if your annual USF contribution is near that cutoff, using safe harbor might push you over, but using your actual PIU will actually keep you below de minimis, which makes you contribute nothing to USF and keep all of it. Number three, you have never validated safe harbor against your own data. If you're using safe harbor because it's what you've always done and no one can tell you your current PIU, then you are flying blind. In the hundreds of traffic studies we've completed, not a single provider was close to or above the safe harbor rate, which, by the way, if you're a VoIP provider, as we mentioned, is 64.9%, but if you're a wireless provider, it's 37.1%. To make this even more concrete, in a future video, we'll walk through a sample set of traffic data and show how different assumptions can change that USF payment on a real 499 form. You will see how a shift in interstate percentage flows all the way to the line on your invoice and your P&L. But for now, if you're the person who signs off on the filings, projections, or regulatory costs, share this video with your finance, technical, or compliance leads. Use it as a starting point for a real conversation about whether safe harbor still fits your business. You work hard for your revenue. Make sure your USF payments reflect your actual work, not someone else's assumptions. Thank you.